Unit 9, that is rural health programs. So today in this lecture, we are going to cover block 3, that is rural development programs and institutions. And we will cover these 4 units, unit 6, 7, 8, and 9. So let us start with our social security programs, that is unit 6. So in this unit uh, of social security programs, we'll try to cover these themes. First, we'll look into objective of this unit. Then we'll have a brief introduction about this. After that, we'll define what social security is. We'll also go into the concept of social security, what social security is all about. And we'll also have some standard definition. We'll also see some standard definition of social security. And after that, we'll cover objectives of social security, then the scope of social security, what are the features of social security, then social security schemes in India. There are some several social security schemes which are being run by the government, both at the center and state level. So that also we'll cover. And there are some pensions or employees provident fund, EPFO, then health insurance and medical benefits. There are some disability benefits schemes for that. Then there are some schemes related to maternity benefit and gratuity. Similarly, we'll also try to have a very comprehensive idea of what this social security is all about. Okay, so let us cover this chapter. So first we'll try to understand the objective of this unit. So objective of this social security is basically to explain you what is the need of social security. Then we'll also try to understand the concept and definition of social security organizations and social security programs. Then what are the features of social security programs? There are some important social security programs that also will cover. So first thing first, we'll have a brief introduction. So here we will try to understand that why social security is needed. Okay. So we'll go to the constitutional landscape of our country. Like India is a welfare state, and this concept of welfare state has been constitutionally declared through directive principles of a state policy in our constitution. So that's why social security legislation in India, it basically derive its strength and spirit from directive principles of state policy, okay, which is contained in the part 4 of the constitution. Then social security is nowadays it is increasingly being seen as an integral part of the development process. We can see a lot of programs being run by the government, both at the center and state level, which try to promote social security. For example, there is a scheme of public distribution system. Uh, we are we are we as a country are providing free food grains to more than 80 crore people of the country. So that is an example of social security in terms of food security, right? Then historically, if we see whether this concept of social security was there, so Indian society traditionally uh, has witnessed that the responsibility of family and community in general, where social security was kept at a very high emphasis. However, with the gradual process of industrialization and urbanization, what happened that there was a break and disintegration of joint family, and which also led to weakening of family bonding. So the need for institutionalized and state and society regulated social security arrangement, it came into place. Okay, so that's why a need has arrived, especially more since emergence of market economy and globalization, that the weaker and vulnerable sections of society, they have to be catered for their needs, and there has to be some programs which can ensure for the minimum standard of their living. So if we look at it historically also, like for example, during Maurya administration also, we have seen that there was this concept of like welfare state inherent in that, though not very explicit, but it was there implicitly. For example, it was believed that the happiness of the king lies in the happiness of the subject. So obviously, we can see that there was uh, emphasis for this welfare state back then as well. Okay. Then the next important thing is like the concept of social security. Okay. So if we look at it from like universal sense, then social security, it basically refers to uh, a kind of safety or a protection which is delivered by the society to its members against some mishaps or some accidents on which a person has no control, right? So this all theory of social security, it is now normally implicit as a meaning like the protection which is supplied or provided by the society to its member over a series of some civic functions like against economic and social misery, or otherwise what will happen in a sense of social security, like there can be substantial reduction of earning which can arise due to, for example, sickness, maternity, some occupational injury related to occupation, then some work related diseases and all, unemployment, then old age, and the death of a earning member. So apart from we can see that apart from like medical care and cash benefits, there are several social security programs which also provide some welfare services to persons which are protected by them. Okay, so then now we will cover definition of social security, how to define social security. So according to international labor organization, social security is, there are program of protection which is provided by society against those contingencies against which the individual of small means they cannot provide by their own ability and foresight. So this is a very standard definition of social security by International Labor Organization. Then there is a thinker called William Devergist. He has given that social security is primarily an attack on five giants, namely want, disease, ignorance, squalor, and illness. Now let us look into objective of social security. So what is objective of social security? So basically the objective of social security, it can be categorized under three different categories. Objective of social security. Objective of social security, it can be categorized under these three categories. Number one is compensation. There are some social securities uh, which are given as compensation. For example, like suppose there are income security. It is a kind of income security which was given during like COVID-19 pandemic. So during COVID-19 induced pandemic, what happened? That some factories and organizations were being shut down. So in that case, uh, there was compensation in terms of like wage losses for laborers. So these compensations were provided by the government or even some of the organizations also. So this compensation actually means It is a type of income security during a spell of risk, because what will happen that the individual and their family, they should not be subjected to like double burden, because on the one hand there is a destitution and loss of life which we saw, which we witnessed during COVID pandemic, and on the other front, that is work front, what will happen, like there will be reduction of their income also, so which can again lead to permanent and reduction in permanent or temporary earning capacity of uh, affected employees. So that's why this compensation is it is like in terms of during contingency and unexpected mishaps by providing some support. Okay. Then the next thing is restoration. So I think this is self-explanatory. The word restoration means giving individuals and their families the confidence that their level of living and quality of life will not suffer as far as possible due to some social and economic loss. For example, restoration schemes, it aims to restore the previous social and economic status of the employee by providing some financial and social help. Suppose there is an employee uh, who gets injured, or like his limbs get amputated due to some work related accident. So in that case there are some provisions due to restoration of one's previous status or financial position, so the self confidence and self esteem of the employee can be maintained. Okay. For example, for sick and injured employees, there are provisions of some allowances. Then the third objective of social security is prevention. So here social security is a basic instrument of social and economic justice among members of society. So it doesn't only aims at compensation and restoration of one's financial and social status, but it also aims that prevention of mishap, those industrial injury and those occupational diseases. So it aims at avoiding the loss of productive capacity due to sickness, injury, or unemployment. And regarding all these three objectives of Social Security, we have schemes like Factory Act, Industrial Safety Act, and Workers' Compensation Act, which are very helpful in prevention of different types of work-related injury, occupational diseases. As we know that prevention is better than cure. So this third objective of Social Security is also very important. Then we'll move to the scope of Social Security. What is the scope of social security? After having discussed objective of social security, we'll move to scope of social security, right? So the scope of social security is very comprehensive and it is very wide actually. So there is one convention of ILO named convention number 102. So according to this convention, there are nine different mechanism of social security that sort of gives a scope of social security, right? So this scope includes like health insurance, maternity benefits, compensation for employees, compensation for employment and employees injury, workers family and pension cum insurance scheme, compulsory and voluntary social insurance, some provided provident fund schemes, public health services. So if we consider the nine mechanism of social security given by ILO under this convention number 102, then these are number one, medical care, then sickness benefit, unemployment benefit, old age benefit, employment injury benefit, family benefit, maternity benefit, invalidity benefit, and then survivors benefit also. Like after death of an earning member, uh, his or her dependent family members who are considered survivors, they are also supposed to get some social security in terms of financial compensation, right? Then we'll discuss some features of social security. So the features of social security, what are the features of this social security? Features are basically characteristics of social security, which can be understood as like number one, the social security programs, they are basically for person who are living in this society, right? Then another is these programs are for needy person like retired, unemployed, old, disabled. Okay. Then the interest of social security to facilitate needy persons for at least normal life living. Okay. Then it is also for like offsetting the impacts of some hardship due to social risk like social sickness, old age, retirement, disability, unemployment. So these are social risk. Then comes another feature or another characteristics is these programs or this social security, it contributes in improving the standard of living, especially of ignored people from the society. So that's why it is considered that this program is necessary for national development and happiness as well. Then they also play very important role, and there is lot of coordination also in providing social security. Though government does have a predominant role, but there are other institutions like NGO, trust, volunteers. They're also involved into this. Then government generally enacts certain laws regarding benefits which are provided by them, and these laws are known as social security legislation. Okay. Then having discussed that, we'll now go to social security schemes in India. There are some social security schemes. At present, government of India, it provides several social security schemes for medical care, sickness benefit, employment injury benefit, and the old age and survivor benefit. So there are basically all these social security schemes. They can be broadly divided into two categories, right? So number one is contributory, and number two is non-contributory. So what are contributory scheme? Contributory scheme means the contributing rules like those which offer for the funding of social security plan by assistance funded by workforce and employees, and in some cases supported by government as well. Okay. So what are the example of contributory scheme? Like employees state insurance scheme, employees provident fund scheme, then deposit linked insurance scheme. So all these schemes are example of contributory scheme. Then there are other schemes uh, where the workers are eligible to social security assistance without even paying their contribution. Okay. So for example, old age pension, then pension for people with disability, PWD, right? Now, having discussed this, we'll try to understand these three terms: social insurance, social assistance, and public service. So, in social insurance, what happens? It is basically a mechanism through which benefits are provided to the contributories, those who are uh, contributing, like those who are providing their contribution. So here, social insurance, there are some important features like it cannot be faced by the person in their individual capacity. There are certain risks. So that's why there has to be a collective. It has to be faced collectively by the society or collectively by the group of person. So social insurance is a contributory in nature because here both government and subscribers, they have to deposit their monthly subscription. Then certain benefits are provided to them in case of contingency. And here benefits can be claimed by the insured persons as a matter of their rights. This is very important. Then these persons, they are insured against the risk or compulsory basis. On compulsory basis, it is obligatory for them to contribute under the scheme. So these are the features of social insurance. Then comes social assistance. Social assistance is normally non-contributory. This consists of some programs through which government it tries to reduce the distress caused by contingency. Okay, so it can be said that some maintenance benefits for children, mothers, old people, disabled, unemployed. So these are part of social assistance program. Okay, here there is no need of contribution. Then the third is public service. Here, these are the programs where government is providing public service to every member of the community, falling within a defined category. For example, there can be like targeted public distribution system is an example of public service. Okay. So these three terms I wanted to discuss with you. Then next comes there are some schemes of the government of India. So we should have a very brief introduction of that. Before that, we'll quickly cover. There are some different type of social security schemes in India, like for below poverty line, Indira Gandhi National Open National Old Age Pension Scheme. It is funded by taxpayer. Then health related services like Ayushman Bharat and all. So yeah, all citizens are eligible up to certain income. Then organized sector, here it is funded by employer, and based on legislation. As per legislation, it can be funded by employer, employee, and government. Then there are some schemes which are funded by the government, but which are voluntary in nature. That if you opt for those schemes, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, Jeevan Jyoti. So these are schemes which are based on which are voluntary in nature. It can be said. Okay. Then now comes there are some schemes related to social security by the government of India. So we'll just quickly go through some important feature of these schemes. Okay. So number one is Sukanya Samriddhi scheme. So what is Sukanya Samriddhi scheme? It is basically a type of small scale saving scheme for girl child, and it is intended for to cater for education of girl and marriage education and marriage expenditure of a girl child. Okay, so it is basically a part of the government's Beti Bachao Beti Padhao mission overall umbrella. So here what happened that there should be contribution in range of 1,000 rupees to a maximum of 1,50,000 annual, and here government is giving some interest rate which is often which can be changed also. Then there is another scheme called National Pension Scheme. Its aim is to reward retirement needs of the people. So it is controlled by Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, and it also provides some tax profits. Okay. Then the next scheme is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So this is a kind of social security scheme only, and it is for economically poor people of the society who do not have a bank account. So Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, who even if there are people like who do not even have a bank account, so this yojana it offers like basic monetary services like saving account, deposit account, insurance, pension remittances after opening an account. So there are no minimum and maximum contribution for this scheme, and it provides like zero balance saving accounts as well. debit card facility, and accident and life cover of some amount. Then public provident fund, it is a government supported long standing saving scheme, and its aim is basically to provide assistance to self-employed people to protect for their superannuation, that is retirement. And in this scheme also it offers tax benefit. Then the next is national savings certificate. National, it can also be called like a small scale saving and tax saving investment scheme, and it is like government bond issued for a time period of 5 and 10 years, and it is extremely popular among the agriculture masses. Then the another scheme is called Atal Pension Yojana. So Atal Pension Yojana, it is also government supported pension scheme, and it offer pension benefits with very least contribution per month. So this scheme is basically directed to unorganized segments, and it offers pension assistance so that they can get some assured pension uh, after retirement. Okay. Then Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. It is a type of life insurance scheme supported by the government. It was started in 2015, and this scheme it wishes to increase the number of insurers in India, which is currently very few. Like life insurance penetration in India is comparatively very less compared to uh, developed countries. Then the next scheme is, then now we'll try to understand what are the some problems and issues in social security policy and programs. Okay, so there are some problems, some common problems. First is exclusion and inclusion errors. Like normally there are exclusion of unorganized and informal sector. Then the benefits which are promised, they are not adequate enough. So inadequate benefits. Then there are some multiple laws, like often there are duplication of efforts and overlapping of schemes. Then multiplicity of policies, that is there is a lack of comprehensive policy focus. Then there are many agencies involved, mi- ministries, governments, banks. So there it often leads to a lack of coordination, which ultimately affects the effectiveness of these programs. Then poor administrative structure for delivery and lack of administrative capacities is another reason which affects the effective implementation of these programs. Then lack of resources in a state's health system or poor quality of health services. Then duplicity, like duplication of efforts. Then its compliance is also very not at remarkable. Compliance is also very poor. Then often there are fragmentation, like multiple administrative authorities are involved during implementation of the program. Okay. And another important thing is often there is a term called perverse incentive. Means sometimes there are few programs which sort of uh, promote dependency culture in country, like uh, frequent waiver of some loans for political benefits. So these things, this initiative often induce perverse incentives. Okay. Then after that, we'll just try to sum up that social security is the basically basis of economic safety of for millions of people in our country, and we have seen that there are a lot of programs and social security schemes being run by both the state and central government, and we have also seen there are some problem and issues. So in order to ensure universal social security in our country, there is a need that these programs are implemented effectively, and there should be also periodic review of this program, some evidence based uh, decision making, so that these programs can be effective to achieve their objectives. Okay. Now, having discussed this, we'll quickly move to the next unit, that is rural irrigation. So, again, in this unit, we'll cover like objective, we'll have brief introduction, importance of irrigation, then types of irrigation, then historical aspects like how irrigation was during ancient period, medieval period, British period. Then we'll try to understand the present scenario of irrigation. Then after that, we'll also see irrigation administration in Telangana, some historical aspects, what are the unique features, then what is the state level organizational setup for irrigation, then organizational setup. There are some important schemes and projects like Mission Kakatiya, Kaleshwaram project. Then what are the problems in implementation of these irrigation programs before we sum up? Okay. So let us quickly go through this. Objective of this unit basically is to explain different aspects of rural irrigation in terms of what irrigation is all about, the different types of irrigation system, administrative arrangement for irrigation. Then irrigation, like definition, we are already aware that irrigation can be defined as, what is irrigation? So it can be defined as the process of applying controlled amounts of water to plants at needed interval. So this can be a very brief and basic introduction. It is often described as artificial application of water to land to assist in the production of crops. Okay. So irrigation facilities are very important for development of rural areas. As we see that agriculture is one of the most prominent activities in rural areas. So irrigation is basically a matter relating to rural areas because crops are by and large they are grown in rural areas. It is not that they are not grown in urban areas, but by and large it means to a large extent agriculture is considered a rural activities, right? Then the formation of Telangana state as a 29th state of the Indian Union. It was also due to like Telangana agitation that protested because it was felt that there was sort of neglect of irrigation in the Telangana region of the United Andhra Pradesh. Okay. Then importance of irrigation. We already know that irrigation is one of the most important feature for agriculture for more than like 5,000 years. So it is product of many cultures and historically the basis for economies and societies across the globe. We saw that even evolution of different cultures like uh, Indus culture, Indus Valley culture, Egyptian and Mesopotamia. They were often established on the bank of rivers, so that agriculture and crops can be produced. So that's why we see that importance of irrigation is civilizational. So it is heart and soul of rural development, especially in agrarian country like India. This we already discussed. Then what are the like other importance of irrigation? It basically helps to improve our food security because if there are adequate irrigation facilities, then it will lead to uh, adequate production and productivity of our crops. Then it also reduces dependence on monsoon. It improves agriculture productivity and it creates rural job opportunities as well. Then there are some dams also which are used for irrigation projects, and these dams are also used to produce electricity and transport facilities as well. And beside that, They can also be used for drinking water supplies to growing population. Then urban, no, not only urban, like they're also used for flood control system, and they often prevent droughts. Okay, so beside that, like these are the main importance areas of irrigation. But beside that, irrigation system they're also used for cooling livestock, like dust separation, disposal of sewage in mining. So it is sometimes often combined with some uses like transportation. Water transportation is another example of like which is a kind of cheapest mode of transportation. So rural irrigation is of like particular importance, especially in arid or semi-arid dryland areas where there are non-availability of water. Then, what are the different types of irrigation? Let us try to understand. There are different types of irrigation. Another important fact is like in India, we are having only 2.4% of the world land mass and 4% of its water resources. So India's irrigation system is it has become actually very critical to maximize agriculture productivity and ensuring food security. This we already discussed. Then there are sustainable management practices which are essential to address disparity between like water availability and the growing population demands. In India itself, there are some areas which are water surplus areas. There are some areas which are water deficit area. Like often there have been some projects, for example, interlinking of rivers and all, so that water can be transferred from water surplus areas to water deficit areas. Okay. Then we'll see various irrigation sources according to Indian Council of Agriculture Research data. Like con- contribution of canal is 23.66%. Then tank is 2.52%. Well is 62.82%, and other sources are 11%. Then there are different types of irrigation, like traditional methods and modern methods. So in traditional methods, what is to happen? Like this pulley system, then chain pump, Dekli, Rahat, lever system. Then pumps were commonly used for lifting water. Then these are the uh, energy sources being used: diesel, biogas, electricity, and solar energy. They were used to run these pumps. Then what are the modern methods? In modern methods, basically, there are four different methods actually. So that we'll see: surface irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, drip or trickle irrigation, then subsurface irrigation. Okay. So before that, we'll just try to understand. Uh, these are the different types of irrigation, major classification, like low flow irrigation. Basically, there are two main types of irrigation. One is called low flow irrigation, and another is high flow irrigation. So low flow irrigation, it consists of like spray, drip lines, drip irrigation. So drip irrigation is, I'll show you how drip irrigation looks like. It looks like this. So here what basically happens, that most parts of the garden except lawns where appropriate sprinklers they can be used for lawn or some low growing ground covers. So and the high flow system, they are like where some motor, rotor and uh, bubbler and soaker hose they are used. So both of these system can be used in like cropland. And there are different systems which can be used for like they're having some advantages and some disadvantages. Like we can see this is an example of surface irrigation, how it looks like. Then another is called sprinkler system. This is like less water is used here than surface irrigation. In surface irrigation, often there are a lot of wastage of water. Then the next important thing is this we have covered. This we have covered. Now we'll see historical aspects of irrigation and division of flow irrigation. This here division of flow irrigation is it means like flow irrigation. It can be further divided into perennial and inundation irrigation. In perennial irrigation system, what happens that water is required for irrigation is supplied in accordance with crop requirements throughout the crop storage. Okay, but in inundation irrigation, here irrigation is carried out by deep flooding, like in surface irrigation. It is a type of uh, inundation irrigation. Then direct irrigation system. Here water is directly diverted to the canal without attempting to store the water. There is no focus on storage of water. Then storage irrigation. I think this is self-explanatory, where water is stored and later on it is provided gradually, like whenever as per need arises. Okay. Then combined system, where there is a combination of storage and direct. Right. Then lift irrigation, it is normally practiced when the water supply is at too low or too low level to run by gravitation on the land. Normally, irrigation here in flooding irrigation, it basically follows the gravity. Like there should be inclination, and like from like it will follow its elevation as per the gravity. Okay. Then, if there are situation where supply is at too low level and it has to irrigate some areas which are at higher level. So, of course, your water cannot go there naturally due to gravity. So, here we have to do some mechanism which acts against the gravity, because if water is at low level, gravity won't allow it to go at the higher level. So in such circumstances, what will happen? Then water is usually lifted by a mechanical means. So irrigation from wells is an example of lift irrigation, in which subsoil water it is lifted up to the surface and then it is discharged to the agriculture fields. Okay. Then choice between different types of irrigation. Here, choice between different types of irrigation means like direct irrigation scheme, it is adopted in some circumstances where river is perennial, continuous flow of water throughout the river. There is no shortage of there is no shortage of water, and it has a normal flow throughout the irrigation season, never less at any time. On the contrary, where storage irrigation system is adopted, where the river flow is either not perennial or where flow is insufficient during certain parts of the season. Okay. So in a multi-stage river valley development, a combined storage cum diversion scheme is more useful. So this we have covered. Now we'll quickly look at the historical aspects. Like in ancient period, what used to happen that the earliest mention of irrigation are they're found in Rig Veda in some of its chapters. So it Veda mention only well type irrigation, where Kupa and Avata wells once dug are they were stated to be always full of water, from which Baratra means rope stripe, Baratra and Kakra, and Pula Kosha of water. So this water was just as stated in Veda, it led into Surmi Susira means broad channels, and from there into Khanitrima, that is diverting channels. Surmi Susira, and that is broad channels and diverting channels. So it irrigation finds its mentioning in Rig Veda as well. So we can imagine like how irrigation is a how old this concept of irrigation is all about. Then there are some texts from Mauryan Empire era which mention that state raised revenue from charging farmers for irrigation services from rivers. Then Patanjali also in Yoga Sutra talks about uh, like a technique of yoga by comparing it to the way a farmer diverts a stream from an irrigation canal for irrigation. Then in Tamil Nadu also, like across the Kaveri River, one grand canal was implemented in the third century CE only, and its basic design is still used today. Then after that, during medieval period, what happened that the most widespread irrigation system in India was undertaken by the rulers of Delhi Sultanate, like Firoz Shah Tughlaq built the most extensive canal irrigation system around the Indo-Gangetic Doab and the region west of the river Yamuna in the 14th century only. So these canals provided vast resources of water to agriculture lands in northern India as well as vital supplies of waters to urban and rural settlement. Okay. So then came the British. So during British period, British built the colonial canal networks on the base on the foundation of this medieval canal system only. Okay. So in British period, like by 1800 years, by 1800, some more than like 8 lakh hectares were irrigated in India. So by 1940, they built a significant number of canals and irrigation systems in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Punjab, Assam, and Odisha. Okay. Then one historian called David Gilmore, he states that British colonial government it had built a irrigation network with Ganges Canal, and by the end of the century, the new network of canals in the Punjab they were put in place. So British also played important role towards major irrigation canals. They were also built after millions of people died each in series of like famines during the 19th century in British India. So in 1900, what happened that British India it had about 13 million hectare under irrigation. Then, however, much of the added irrigation capacity during the British era, it was provided by groundwater wells and tanks, and they were often operated manually. Now, we'll quickly look at the present scenario of irrigation in India. Okay, present scenario of irrigation in India. So here, uh, irrigation in India it basically includes a network of major and minor canals from Indian rivers, and it is also well-based groundwater system, tanks, and some rainwater harvesting projects. So in 2013-14, only about 36.7% of total agricultural land in India it was reliably irrigated. So remaining two-third cultivated land in India is dependent on monsoon. They are rain-fed. So as high as we can say that 65% of the total irrigated area in India is from the groundwater resources. So currently about 51% of the agriculture area cultivating food grain is covered by irrigation. Okay. So in this background, like government of India has launched uh, like several management irrigation management plan, and they are focusing on like demand side water management as well. Okay. So irrigated crop area in India was about 22.6 million hectares in the year 1951. So by 1995, this increased to 90 million hectares. Okay. And according to World Bank report, around 35% of the total agricultural land in India was reliably irrigated in 2010. Okay. So that is a brief like a status about present scenario of irrigation in India. Now we'll quickly cover irrigation administration in Telangana. So historical aspects like Telangana has been heritage of cultivation and irrigation uh, right from like early, very early period. Then in the past, what used to happen? Like ancient kings and rulers, they used to build lakes and reservoirs by constructing dams and aqueducts across rivers. Like during Kakatiya period also, there have been several lakes like Ramappa, Pakhal. Laknavaram, which were used for irrigation. Then there is Mir Alam Tank is the finest example of a dam constructed across Musi River. Then, like even during Nawab Ali Nawaz Jang Bahadur and other eminent engineers, uh, there were some magnificent projects like Himayat Sagar, Nizam Sagar project, Manair project, Dindi project. Then there are some unique features about this. That the state of Telangana has the advantage of having most of the east flowing rivers in the heart of the state, which bring in like supplies from the western and eastern Ghats and the Deccan Plateau. However, most of these rivers they flow occur only in 3 to 4 months of southwest monsoon. That is, they are not perennial in nature, right? Then these are the features. Then state level organization set up for irrigation. So irrigation department like of Telangana, it is responsible for harnessing and utilizing available water resources for benefit of agriculture sector, industrial sector, and for providing drinking water to people. Then Telangana has around more than 4,700 irrigation projects. They are classified into like different category. Major 30 major irrigation projects. I think before that I should show you the classification of irrigation project. Irrigation classification of India, like India across the India. Minor irrigation scheme, there are up to 2,000 hectares of cultivable command areas. It comes under minor irrigation scheme. Then medium irrigation scheme, if cultivable command area is greater than 2,000 hectare but less than 10,000 hectare, then it is medium irrigation scheme. Then major irrigation schemes are having cultivable command areas greater than 10,000 hectare, right? And irrigation water productivity, it is ratio of the crop output of the irrigation water supply. Okay, so this I wanted to. Then we'll clear. Then the next important thing is organizational setup, state level organizational setup for irrigation. So here irrigation department is headed by engineer in chief, who is in charge of overall administration of the department. It is also headed by one more engineer in chief irrigation, who is in charge of the overall irrigation projects of the state. So both these engineers in chief, they are advisors to the government and being associated with the department activities. Then the superintending engineers, they are in charge of circle office and they work under the control of chief engineers. Then executive engineer is head of the division and charge of the construction and maintenance of all irrigation works under their division. Then deputy executive engineer is in charge of subdivision and in charge of construction and maintenance of irrigation work under them. Then the assistant executive engineer is in the charge of construction and maintenance of irrigation work within the section, and it works under the control of deputy executive engineer. So the department is like it is having quality control organization and vigilance enforcement machinery as well, which is meant to ensure the quality of work by providing uh, by preventing substandard works. So this is the like general organization setup. Then there are some important uh, agriculture project. Number one is Mission Kakatya. So as we know that agriculture in Telangana, it is to solely depend upon tanks during Nizam rule. There were more focus on tanks. So originally the tanks in Telangana, it had a lot of capacity, like, but due to negligence, much of this capacity was lost. So the irrigated land under these tanks were around 25 lakh hectares during 1956. But by 2014, these tanks still remained more than 46,000, but half of them were dry. So the farmers started depending on dug wells for agriculture. When the water table depleted, so these dug wells used to get dried up. So after that, what will happen? So In order to overcome this problem, farmers resorted to digging bore wells. They started digging bore wells. Now what will happen now? So these bore wells, they also started drying up due to further depletion of groundwater and lack of groundwater. So it was under such a situation that Mission Kakatiya program was started. So this Mission Kakatiya program, it was inaugurated in 2015 at Pathancheru in Sadashivanagar in Nizamabad district. The name Mission Kakatiya is a tribute to Kakatiya rulers who developed a large number of chain tanks across Telangana for agriculture. Mission Kakatiya. Okay. So it is basically a program for restoring all the minor irrigation tanks and lakes in Telangana state of India. And this program, it helps in rejuvenating more than 46,000 tanks and lakes. So this is the first program to be taken by the government of Telangana after coming into power in June 2014. Okay. So the tanks and lakes, they are basically dug to remove silt for increasing their water storage capacity. And that is all about this scheme. That is a like brief introduction about this scheme. Then the next important scheme is called Kaleshwaram project. The Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project, it was like in news for last few years. So it is a kind of multi-purpose irrigation project on the Godavari River in Kaleshwaram, Bhupalpalli, Telangana. So currently the world's largest multi-stage lift irrigation project it is. Its farthest upstream influence is at the confluence of the Pranahita and Godavari River. So the Pranahita River is itself a confluence of various smaller tributaries like Vardha, Penganga, Vanganga rivers, which combine to form the seventh largest drainage basin in the Indian subcontinent. Okay. So Kaleswaram lift irrigation project, it is divided into seven links and 28 packages spanning a distance of approximately 500 kilometer. Okay. So this project, it aims at increasing total cultivable command area, which is basically the sustainable area, which can be irrigated after accounting for both upstream and downstream, right? So on June 2019, the project was opened by Telangana Governor and Chief Minister Keshi Rao. So it is designed to bring drinking water and irrigation to the parched areas of Telangana. So this is a very important irrigation project which was in news. Then finally we can conclude by saying that irrigation is it is understood to watering of land by artificial means to foster plant growth. So it is basically a matter relating to rural areas because crops, as I told you, that by and large they are grown in rural areas only. So, but irrigation also had like other uses like frost protection, suppressing weed growth, preventing soil consolidation. So that's why rural irrigation is of particular importance in arid and semi-arid, dry and dryland areas. Okay. So with this, we'll try to conclude this rural irrigation unit, and after that, in our next class, we'll cover the remaining part of this unit of rural development programs. Okay. If you are having any doubts or queries, you can ask me now.